What if I told you that the Chinese ships transporting Iranian oil are still coming in and out of the Strait of Hormuz as they please? What if I told you that today they pass right in front of the American forces and they can't intercept them at all? What if I told you that the decision to impose a naval blockade on Iran has become one of the dumbest decisions that got Trump into more and more trouble? Why is Trump trying to convince everyone that he's fighting China and not Iran? Is it true that Russian Wagner forces are the ones protecting the Chinese oil tanker? All of these topics will be revealed in detail today, but after this break. Stay with us. Dear viewers, peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. Welcome to today's new installment of our opinion series, which we always devote to keep up with the latest developments in this war taking place in the Middle East between Iran and the Epstein coalition. The first thing we will start with today, dear viewers, in this episode, it is this American threat to China, which came from the American President Trump, who said that America will also impose a 50% tariff on China if China decides to supply weapons to Iran. This threat, dear viewers, came after a series of reports, American media reports that came from a number of newspapers such as the New York Times. These reports say that American intelligence agencies received information indicating that China may have, in recent weeks, sent a shipment of man-portable air defense systems to Iran. And they say that these systems, of course, can be used in this conflict that is against America and against the Epstein coalition. And these reports also reinforce what Reuters news agency said earlier, that Iran is about to conclude a new military deal with China through which it will purchase a shipment Chinese-made anti-ship cruise missiles of the SAM-302 type. At that time, it said that these missiles would help Iran blockade the Strait of Hormuz and threaten American warships in the region as a whole, in other words, directly. But what's strange about these American media reports is that they are anonymous, talking about normal intelligence information, and they present it anonymously, even building these reports on assumptions. So pay close attention to the use of words like what? Like, maybe it says they're about to sign a deal, and so on. Words like these which make these reports really not provide any definitive answers and without any real sources. And it raises a lot of doubts about these accusations and raises questions about why they're bringing up this topic exactly today. Also, we find that America is also speaking through some former officials or some retired military personnel. They're talking about a hypothesis that says maybe China is now selling weapons to Iran through private companies from countries mentioned in their reports. There are third-party countries that can at least send weapon components, through Afghanistan or through Kyrgyzstan or through Turkmenistan and so on. From neighboring countries. They say that these components are necessary, for making missiles, for making drones and so on. For example, electronic chips. But China, through its Ministry of Foreign Affairs, denied all of this. They denied it. Certainly, it has not supplied any of the parties in this conflict with any weapons whatsoever, and they said that all this information is nothing but lies upon lies. China says that what it has provided to Iran so far are only civilian components, and this is true. But just so everyone knows today, all civilian components can be used in the manufacture of military equipment. For example, the electronic components used in making drones for agricultural purposes, geological purposes, or other civilian uses are the same components that can be used to manufacture military drones. And thanks to China, these components are now available to everyone freely. You can complete the purchase, shipping and so on just through the internet, and everyone knows this. That's why I always say that military industries are no longer monopolized by the major powers. They're no longer difficult, they're no longer impossible like they used to be in the past. Today, any country only lacks the political will. Any country that has the political will can develop local weapons and can go far in this field, because all the components you will need for this are easily and simply available from China. So in general today, what's strange is that these American accusations against China go beyond the truth. These civilian industrial components they're talking about, ready-made cruise missiles, shoulder-mounted air defense systems, and so on. This raises the question, why are these accusations aimed at China now? Even though, as I explained to you, what's available in the reports are just assumptions, why all this secrecy? Dear viewers, what's happening now is that America is trying to promote the idea that its conflict in the region is against China. It means that America now, after this strategic defeat, it is suffering in the region at the hands of Iran because of this war. It is not satisfied with this. It is not satisfied that a country from the global south on its own has taught America such a harsh lesson in the region. So just imagine, when the conflict is with major military powers like Russia or China or others, America is not satisfied with this. America's image is collapsing globally today. So what does Trump want? What does America want? It wants to promote the idea that this defeat came with help from China and not from Iran alone. This means that the American administration, the Trump administration, wants to promote the idea that Iran is receiving military support from China, that it is not alone in this war, and that thanks to this military support from China, what happened, happened. Witness, then witness. Even the American President Trump is also trying to promote the idea that the military aircraft that were shot down by Iran were brought down using Chinese-made, shoulder-launched air defense systems. Meanwhile, as everyone saw in the video, the fighter jets were shot down using other systems, which have thermal cameras, well-known Iranian-made systems. And so Trump wants to convince the Americans, and he wants to convince the international community that the defeat did not come from Iran, but from China, and that he is waging the regional war against China, a major power, not just against Iran, and that today he is confronting it with these threats by imposing additional tariffs on it. But in reality, things are clear to everyone. Iran alone, with its own capabilities, has taught Trump and Trump's associates a lesson they will never forget. Even when Trump talks about Chinese CM-302 cruise missiles, which today have a range of up to 190 kilometers, does Iran have something better than this? It means it has something better than these missiles, like the Qadr 380 missiles, which have a range of 380 kilometers. And these are the missiles that today prevent American ships from entering the Gulf of Oman. So what about the Strait of Hormuz? It means that as soon as they get close, these missiles are launched at them, so they retreat again. So Iran absolutely does not need, naval cruise missiles from China. Maybe it needs other things, we're not saying otherwise. Maybe it needs long-range defensive systems from China, but we're talking about shoulder-launched systems and cruise missiles. Does that mean Iran has something better? If China were really involved in this war, or supporting Iran with weapons, maybe we would have seen other things in this war. At the very least, these Epstein coalition planes wouldn't have been able to enter Iranian airspace at all. That's the least, because China has become a highly advanced technological power in long-range air defense systems, electronic warfare, and so on. Also, dear viewers, when we talk about this naval blockade that Trump is talking about, we have to ask a very important question. Can America really impose this naval blockade on Iran? Yesterday I explained to you how the naval blockade on Iran will have no effect at all on Iran or the Iranian economy, for a number of reasons that I presented to you yesterday. Iran is not Venezuela, and it's definitely not Cuba. But today there is another question. That question is, can America actually impose a naval blockade on Iran? Today, according to American media reports, we find that the American naval forces present in the region consist of 15 ships. Among these 15 ships, there is an aircraft carrier and some destroyers. But the amphibious assault ships, which carry attack helicopters, are capable of carrying out a naval military intervention in the region and imposing a naval blockade in the area. There are only 2 ships, we're talking about just 2 ships, and these forces are actually capable of imposing a naval blockade. Other than that, there isn't anything else, because on top of these ships there are attack or multi-role helicopters like the MH-16, which can transport troops and carry out landings on the deck of any oil tanker and thus seize it by force. But the problem for America is that Chinese, Indian or other oil tankers transporting Iranian oil can now follow maritime routes that America cannot approach or seize at all according to international laws. Why? Because this route will mean that when you leave the safe area of the Strait of Hormuz, you enter another safe area outside of Oman. These are areas that American forces cannot approach. This is known to everyone because Iranian missiles target them. And America is afraid of this scenario because if Iran succeeds in sinking any American ship, no matter what kind, it would be a major disaster for America and especially for Trump. That's why there is a lot of caution on the part of America. There is intense fear. Therefore, the passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman is completely safe from the Iranian side. Iranian oil tankers can pass through there peacefully and safely. Therefore, today the US Navy is counting on intercepting these tankers immediately after they leave the Gulf of Oman towards the Arabian Sea. So here, if everyone opens the map, they will see that if these tankers are heading towards India, China, or any other Asian country, America will not be able to do anything at all. Why do I say this? Because their maritime route will not pass through international waters for America to intercept them, but rather it will pass through territorial waters and then through India's territorial waters. And this way, it will have exited the area where America claims to impose a naval blockade, the area where American naval forces are present. And international law here is as clear as day, because it completely prohibits any military intervention or any seizure or interception of ships by foreign forces within another country's international or territorial waters. Inside territorial waters defined as 12 nautical miles, which is about 23 kilometers out at sea. If this happens, it would be considered a violation of that country's sovereignty. For example, if the American army enters Pakistani territorial waters, it would be a violation of Pakistan's sovereignty, and Pakistan would never accept it, nor would India accept it either. There is only one exceptional case, but for the American army to intervene in this area, in the territorial waters of these countries, it would only be possible if these countries allowed it. For example, if Pakistan or India allowed it. As I said, its relationship with Iran is good, and its relationship with China is good, and it is against this imposed naval blockade. It wants there to be an agreement, not further escalation. Therefore, it will never allow America to have this scenario, which means that the blockade America is imposing today is truly a failed blockade. It is a blockade that will actually be imposed on the Gulf countries, not on Iran, and it will be imposed on the whole world, except for China, India, Pakistan, Iran, and the rest of the Asian countries. The important thing is that it's not on Iran, which to this day still sells all its oil to China, meaning that all the ships will pass safely to China through these maritime routes. So Trump is actually floundering. Trump is promoting things that don't exist at all. Throughout this war, Trump has been promoting imaginary victories. Today, he's promoting imaginary plans, promoting a naval blockade that is impossible to implement in reality. And as I said in yesterday's episode, basically, America will not be able to intercept oil tankers flying the Chinese flag at all. And today, China warned America about this and told it clearly that it has trade agreements with Iran, so America has no right to prevent it. I mean, above all, this blockade is illegal, imposed by only one country, so it has no right to prevent China from obtaining products from Iran and China. Today we are talking about a superpower, we are talking about a strong country on all levels, so Trump has put himself in another predicament today. Also, dear viewers, there is very serious information being circulated in various Russian and Western media outlets. This information is actually unconfirmed, but if it turns out to be true, the situation will be very difficult, and we might witness the beginning of World War III in the region. The important thing is that these reports say that oil tankers transporting oil from Iran to China have started to use Russian mercenary forces. The Russian Wagner forces, meaning they are the ones today protecting these ships from any possible American attack. This is the news that is spreading across a number of Russian and Western media outlets. And the information says that members of the Russian Wagner forces have been deployed. Aboard all these tankers and equipped with all kinds of weapons, they are even equipped with man-portable air defense systems, with the aim of shooting down American helicopters that might try to approach these tankers. So this information, as I said, came from some Russian newspapers and was reported by some Western newspapers, but until today we do not have confirmation or a reliable source to verify it. If this is true, then if American forces intervene, all of this means there are indications confirming the disastrous failure America is experiencing today because of Trump. It means there is a real predicament, another predicament that Trump is facing today. That's why we find that Chinese oil tankers are still passing through the region, and Iranian oil is still being exported from the region. And today Trump is silent, looking for any way out of this predicament. He is truly unable to impose this naval blockade, and he is also unable to back down from it. That's why now for sure he will look for another way out. Maybe he will return to war. That's possible, but it's more likely that he will open the door for a second round of negotiations. However, these negotiations will not lead to any results, and he knows that. He will just use them as a way out of this naval blockade crisis. Trump now makes a decision just to make everyone forget the previous one, so we'll wait and see how things develop in the next few hours. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Peace be upon you and God's mercy and blessings. See you next time.